going to turn it over to Michael, and I'm very excited to see the latest in Avid Media Composer. All right, thank you.
Awesome. How y'all doing, all right? I know it's after lunch. Everyone's going to be a little quiet, right? Anyway, my name is Michael Krulik with Avid, of course, and hopefully you are familiar with Media Composer. Just to initially get a show of hands is, there you go. Not just a general show of hands, but who is using Avid Media Composer right now? Great. Who is using one of the newer versions of Avid Media Composer? Awesome. Who's not using, who hasn't made that transition yet? We have some really cool things coming up, by the way. We have a release coming out in a couple weeks where you might be interested to know what it'll do. I'm actually working on some videos, so that what's new will be coming out soon. But I do want to show you some things that are currently available in Media Composer. This, thank you, by the way, to the team at the Orville, is a scene that they gave us to work with. And by the way, what you're seeing here is just the audio design work. So just in a, it's amazing these days how much work is done with VFX and sound design just for television shows, but you don't have the luxury of having, months and years to, work on that. But, by the way, thank you for all of you that are using Media Composer for your support now through the years and everything. Just out of curiosity, has anybody not using Media Composer? Is anybody new? Don't be shy, a few people. All right, well, I also will show you a really cool thing that we just introduced in Media Composer as well. But I am working off of a laptop, so everything is kind of compressed. In the recent new version of Media Composer, you can lock and dock your panels, but you can actually pull them out as well. So if you need bins and windows to float, you can pull them out. Just so you know, you can design everything the way that you want to work. You can go and dock those and drop them back in. You can tab them. We do have a project window. So the project, which basically is your bins and folders. You do have your settings, you have your effect palette. So everything can be designed and laid out in these different workspaces as you would like. And you'll notice whenever I click on any of these panels, the vertical title lights up. So that's just telling me that that panel is active. Okay, you could also right-click on the name there and say float this panel. And it'll actually pull that out and you can manipulate it and move it and create all of these different workspaces that you'd like to work in, whether it's effects, audio, just main editing. So you can decide how you want to set that up. But let's go ahead and start from the beginning, because something that we did with the startup in Media Composer, because a lot of times you may not know what camera format you have because you're just getting footage. Typically, in Media Composer, you start your project, you set your format, your frame rate, you're good to go. In the project management window here, you'll see you can actually do poster frames if you visually want to see what the project is that you're working on. And if I go in to create a new project, we have a new button here that says Choose for Me. You'll notice that what that does is it deactivates all of the formats and frame rates. If I turn that off, you'll see I can go in and choose, my 16K project. Yes, we can go up to 16K. Scary. It's more for digital signage at this point, but we are future-proofing, so when cameras and when you are working 16K, you can do it. But you'll see you do have your UHD, your 8K, 4K, 2K. You still can do NTSC and PAL if you are working in that. But oh, and also, by the way, custom lets you choose your format and frame rate. So if you're doing something that's not a traditional format and frame rate, you can go in and type in any sort of pixel dimension or format you want for that. But if I say choose for me, what that's going to do, let me go ahead and say this is, we'll call this Jump 1 is the name of the project. And when I go in and hit create, it's going to give me a blank canvas to work with. And it's also going to give me these helpful little hints to, again, somebody who might be new to Media Composer. Drag and drop from the source browser to add clips to your project, drag clips down here to start editing. But what happens here is if I go in and choose to go to my source browser and grab a clip to bring it in, Now, you can go to the source browser, or if you didn't know, you can drag and drop from the desktop, from the root level if you'd like. But let me go to my little drive here. I'm going to grab just some stock footage. Here we go. Let's just take that, drag and drop that in. So you're seeing I'm linking to those. So links, if you didn't know as well, has a little chain link on it. That's telling me I'm directly linking to that file, rather than transcoding and creating Avid media as you typically would. So you can link to media, you can work with transcoded media as you'd like. But if I take a look at this clip, and then I decide, wait, I want to start editing. Of course, you go in, you mark your ins and your outs. A little bit of trivia I like to throw in. Do you know why the mark in and out symbols are shaped like that? Thumbnails. In the days of old, when you were editing on film on a moviola, and you had the bins, you took your film out, and you said, here's my in point, here's my out point. Isn't that funny? Avid's been out there, Media Composer, for over 30 years, and people, there was a method to madness when this was designed, so those are thumbnails. All right, so we mark that. I want to take that, drag it into my timeline, and this is where the choose for me happens. It says, all right, that clip is 23:9. Do you want to work in that format? Just say OK, or you could go in and choose your format and frame rate and move on. But the idea here is a lot of times you may not know what the format of the camera or the file that you're getting is. So it'll let you choose for me. OK? Let me cancel out of that, and I want to show you another really cool thing. Let me go back to the Orville project. For those of you transitioning from Adobe Premiere into Media Composer, even people moving from other versions of Media Composer into the new one, the whole issue with the UI and the look was sort of an obstacle for people. It was any sort of change. If you go to Outlook, if you go to Facebook, and something changes, you're like, oh my God, what happened? So how do you get past that? Everything under that, when you start working, is going to be the same. But how do you get past the look? So something that we've done here is if I go to my settings and user, and whenever you're creating or opening up a new version of Media Composer, you do want to create new user settings. If I go and create a new user profile, we have two options. How about this? I can go to Media Composer, or I'm transitioning from Adobe Premiere. And what this does, if I select that, we'll say Mike P Pro. I say OK. It's going to change the entire workspace to look like Premiere. All right? Because again, it's one of those things where you look at something. I've had people look at Media Composer and go, oh, it's Premiere. It's like, oh, no, it's not, because the things aren't in the right position. But now, because you have the source and record window on the upper portion taking over the full screen, you have your media management and control and everything down in the lower left, and you have your timeline. It looks like Premiere. And if you didn't know this as well, when you go to your settings, there is a setting for your keyboard. Do you want to work with a Premiere Pro keyboard, or are you coming from Resolve? So if I bring up the Premiere Pro keyboard, it's the default keyboard for Premiere Pro. So you, if you're familiar with Premiere, if you have that sort of muscle memory for the keyboard, you'll be able to navigate through the software quickly and easily. And if I just want to bring up Resolve, you'll see this is the keyboard for Resolve. Okay, again, you can go in and customize everything if you'd like, but again, we want to try to help transition people from other applications into Media Composer. So we've done some nice things to be able to do that. Okay. Looking at some other things as well, this was a question from somebody I had earlier. You know when you go into Customize and you have your command palette? The command palette, of course, is all of your buttons, and you're like going through the tabs, and you're like, where is that key? Where's that button? A few versions ago, we added a quick find. I need to find trim. So if I type in trim, it brings up all of the options for trim. I click, and it actually highlights that command. So you don't have to sit there and go, where is that button? You can actually type that in. Okay? A couple other things. Again, I have a short amount of time here. There's so much to the software. But I also like to point out things like, you're looking at a timeline, and again, if you're in a compressed window, you don't have 2 monitors, some people have 3 monitors now, and you're scrolling back and forth through your timeline, you're zoomed in, and you're like, okay, I need to find or go to a certain track. If you right-click in the timeline, there is an option that's added that says, here it is, Show Sequence Map. Show Sequence Map brings up a panel which is your entire timeline, but what you're seeing visually is in the little outlined area. So you can easily go in and manipulate and move around. That's sick, I love that. I'm going to use that as a marketing quote. But the nice thing here, because it is a panel that you can dock, you grab the vertical title, you can take that, you can dock it in here, and now you have a UI that is set up to let you move around your timeline. Actually kind of cool. We also have that in your bins. So in your bin, you'll see here in the upper right-hand corner, I have what we call a bin map. So even if you're working in frame mode and you want to go in and manipulate and move around because you have a lot of clips, you can turn on, if you right-click, hide or show bin map. And by the way, all of these can be mapped to a key as well. So you see hide bin map, which just means if I select that, that goes away. And you can go in, if you show it, you can grab like a corner of it and change the size of it if you want as well. Sort of like a Google map bird's eye view of your bin. All selectable as you want to start working. Okay? If I want to save this as a workspace, on the far right side we have what we call our task-oriented workspaces. These also were designed for somebody just starting out and learning Media Composer. They're like, how do I go to color correction? Where do I go to audio? So these are just little shortcuts to your workspaces. So if I want to go to color, I click here. If I want to go to effects, if I want to go to audio, it all comes up, and these workspaces can be saved. So if I'm on a workspace and I create a look and I want this to be a little smaller and I want to save this, the active one is right here. You right click or select the little button here, new workspace, give it a name, jump workspace, hit OK, and that actually populates it as a workspace here. You still have your workspaces under Windows, that's the way that they always were. But we put this on the right side for, again, the new person who needs to learn how to use the UI. And you could right-click and hide that if you need that real estate back. So again, some really nice things with the UI and the user experience. Just a couple of other things that I want to bring up quickly are being able to go in and do a bulk change to your media. So let's see, if I want to go in, let me go and just drop in some clips. Now I'm going to the OS level of my computer. I'm going to go to some stock footage here. Here we have some shots of some kids baking. We'll take them and drag them in. Now notice, if I go in and do an initial drag of that from the OS level, take it. I'm going to hold down an option modifier. Am I not doing it right? What are my keys? Let's go to the source browser. But yeah, if you hold down option when you drag and drop from the OS level, it will link the clips. We would do the same thing here. Kids baking. And just drag a few of these in and link to them into the bin. There they are. So one thing I do want to point out, because a lot of people get tripped up here, is this little icon in the text view of your bin. This is called bin left lock. And what that means is, let me go ahead and just pull that bin out. When you have your bin and all your metadata being displayed, let me go ahead and change the size of my font. Oh, because it's locked in the UI. If I go in and move that, what that's doing is locking all of the information to the side of that. It's just like an Excel spreadsheet. I actually found that out recently, that Excel does this. You can actually lock a column so nothing actually can be moved beyond that. Because if you go in and you have your name of your clip, by the way, you can now drag and change the size of your columns, or you can double click and it'll resize to the largest string of text. Command T or Control T does that same thing, by the way. But if I go in and position this, all that means is everything to the left is going to be locked, so I'm not losing the name of that clip when I'm trying to find out information. I'm also going to go in and duplicate, making a lot of copies. So I have a lot of copies of those same files. I'm going to take the first few down here that I initially had, and I want to change the names of all of them. The way we do that, if we go to the Fast menu or the Bin menu, is using a feature called Bulk Edit. And what Bulk Edit does is it says, okay, oops, let me grab those clips again, is it's going to let me bulk change the name of all of these clips right here. Ooh, it's 19 minutes. So Bulk Edit basically is going to say, all right, here's my clips. I want to go and change the specified text. I want it to be jump underscore, and you'll see that the new name for all of those is now jump underscore. And you can add in other metadata, excuse me, other metadata. You can add a counter. So you'll see that it's now putting a counter at the end of all those. You can add, other separators, and you could even add, you can keep adding all of this. You can save these formats as well. Custom data. So any metadata, name, location, any custom column that you created in Media Composer in the bin, I'm just going to say duration because each duration is different. Once I say commit, you'll see I just changed all those names. Ah. And then I want to get rid of all of the untitled, the copies, the .news, all of this stuff from transcodes and stuff. So I'm going to grab all of these. Actually, I don't even have to grab them. I'll go right to the Fast menu. Under Bulk Edit, we have Find and Replace. So inside of this bin, I want to find all of the .copy.01s. The first one's orange. All the rest of them are yellow. I hit Replace All, and I just removed all of those. All right. And I'm getting short on time. There's a lot of stuff I can do here, but I do want to also point out that if you want to go to Pro Tools, we have put into a recent version of Avid Media Composer. It was 2022.3. Soon, we're going to be able to round trip, but right now, you can export from Media Composer Ultimate and Media Composer Enterprise a Pro Tools session. This actually will embed. It's not an AAF, because an AAF means you also have to send a QuickTime file or any other information. This will embed video, all of the information. You can actually choose what you want. You could even say markers. So your markers from Media Composer will be seen in Pro Tools. Any comments, you can even choose the markers that you would like. And you'll see here that for video, I want to do a mixdown. I could link to media if I'm on Nexus and I'm sharing on Pro Tools and Media Composer. But I want to do a mixdown. I want it to be an MOV file. I want the MOV file to be ProRes. And by the way, if you didn't know, in recent versions of Media Composer, you can export ProRes from a PC. Also, choose the ProRes format. Choose the raster size if you want. And then in the audio details, copy media, link, consolidate, whatever you want, so you can package it all in a single file. You can embed field recorder metadata. You can convert non-wave media to broadcast wave files. You could do an audio mixdown. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to create a .ptx file, an actual Pro Tools session that you can give to anybody on the Pro Tools side. And in a current version of Pro Tools, you'll get a track, which is your video, because it's linking to the video that's exported. You'll get a cut track. So even though it is a single file, you'll be able to see on the Pro Tools side every cut and where it happens in the sequence. And you'll get a rendered, unrendered, and rendered only audio folder. So if you have Audio Suite plugins, if you have any clip gain, any sort of audio keyframing, all of that will come over into the Pro Tools session as well. And hopefully by the end of this year, we're planning on being able to take the Pro Tools session, drag and drop that back into a bin in Media Composer, and you'll see everything. Finally. Actually having some great interop through that. Okay? How are we doing, Reed? I don't want to cut into you.
Let's see. It is 1:23. I'd say you could go until like 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes. All right. What else can I show? Wow. Oh, this is actually cool. Let me bring up, if you didn't know this as well, there are a lot of great selection tools in Media Composer. So you can select to the right, to the left. You can right-click and say, select to the right, to the left. Wherever you are, actually I need to turn some tracks on. You'll also see that, and this is something that a lot of people don't know about. If I select, let's say this green color, and let me go down to some audio here and grab this orange, so shift select, I could right-click and say select everything with the same source clip color. So this is great for turnovers. This is great for, saying find all of my offline media only, and then send me a list of just what the offline media is because maybe I need to pull stuff. But if I say select everything with the same source clip color, you'll see that the items changed. I right-click again, and there's an option to create a sequence based on that selection. We'll put it into my bin here. I then double-click, and it is only what I selected. Everything is in its place in the sequence. Nothing's moved. So all the time codes, everything is set. You could create a sequence. You could send that file out, whatever you need. It's been in the software for a long time. But, there's a lot of stuff. You're basically going into work and get done what you have to do. All these little tools are really great. Also, you can select files, and you can move them up and down with the up and down arrow keys, if you didn't know that. If you want to duplicate, you hold down Option, and you can duplicate clips. You're not having to drag it. I think there was a time when you were, wait, I moved it a frame. How do I lock that in? You don't have to worry about that anymore because you can select, multiple files and just use the up and down arrow key. Notice how the one clip doesn't wipe out the clip that it's going over. That's a selection. If you right-click in the timeline, right-click, there is an option that says move clip leaves filler. So that means because it's not selected, it's not wiping out. I see like the Pac-Man, it's going to eat away at it. So if I turn that on and do that same thing, watch what happens right here. Wah, wah. It ate that away. So there are selections, move clip leaves filler, select filler with segment tools. Notice how that's not selected. So if I'm clicking anywhere in my timeline where there's filler, I'm not selecting and wiping out, because how many times have you grabbed filler accidentally and wiped out edits? Yeah. Right? So now if you right-click and I enable that, you'll see I can select filler. Okay?
All right.
All right. Lots more. Stay tuned for what's new in Media Composer 2023.7 coming out in a couple weeks. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Michael, for that. I gotta say, bulk edit as an assistant editor has been one of the best tools that I've ever used. You've got tape names and dates, show codes, and footage with weird file names that come in from the field, and it's just it's an awesome way to quickly rename. Is everything okay? Let's see. Okay, yeah. So while Jace is getting set up, I wanted to talk about the raffle. Okay, so get your raffle tickets out right now. We're gonna do the raffle. So we have a box in the back here with all of the tickets. So in this box, do I have a volunteer that's here today? Sam, yeah, okay, great. Come on up. Shake the box, mix it around, make sure it's random. All right, does everybody have your tickets ready? All right, so this is for a 1-year license to Avid Media Composer. All right, so pick one. All right, do you want me to say it?
662111.
Is that you? All right. So, do you want to come down? Okay, we've got a second one for you. Pick it. You can do it. Pick it.
662085.
662085. Anyone? All right. Hey. Okay. Is there someone in the room that you would like to gift it to? Maybe someone you met. All right. There you go.
Okay, yeah. Oh my goodness.
All right. Congratulations. All right, cool. Thank you.